Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the CTA stage here at CES 2018, Day 3. Thank you so much for being here with us in the latest edition of Gary's Book Club. I'm Tyler Suiters with the Consumer Technology Association. We own and produce CES and are thrilled to have you here. With me now is author Peter Chadi. And Peter, I say author, but it's a multifaceted title, I know, for you. The book is Media 2.0, also 2018, an insider's guide to today's digital media world and where it's going. So by way of an intro, Peter, I'm just going to say, tell me about your background, because I can't possibly list everything you've done already. Okay. Author, attorney, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, thanks for that introduction, first of all. It's great to be here. I've been in the media and entertainment and tech space for 30 years, so quite some time. Started off as an entertainment attorney back in the day, and then I was always interested in getting into the belly of the beast, into the studios themselves, so the content creators. And I spent about a decade with Universal Studios, New Line Cinema, Savoy Pictures, and then at the turn of the century, when the internet really started hitting and commercializing, that's when I went to my first digital media startup. Went there, then my second early stage company was a company called Music Match, which was really the pioneer when it came to on-demand streaming.
And what year is this you're talking?
This was 2002, 2004.
Yeah, so at the forefront of
oh yeah, this was at the very forefront, when we were really the first ones to negotiate the on-demand streaming licenses, when nobody believed that anybody would care about what they called renting music at the time. And we sold the company for $160 million to Yahoo. Then I ran another company that was more in the, it was like FaceTime, Skype video, but before those came on the scene, and we sold that to Logitech in 2008. Then I ran another company called Sorensen Media, which was really in the compression technology, more of the infrastructure. And then for the past 5 years now, I've been more of an advisor, investor, deal maker, doing a lot of bringing different companies together with opportunities, and also investing in them, and investing in startups and growth stage companies.
Yeah, you were batting far better than 1 for 20 as an entrepreneur, so it was time to get out, right?
I've been fortunate to be with some great teams, yeah.
Let's dive into the book. Fascinating read, really enjoyed it, especially your writing style. Peter has a way of writing that melds the everyday with some really deep thinking. And just to start off, a basic question I think we need to touch on immediately, because every author seems to have a different answer, every professional. To you, what is media? And then it's a subtext, what is content?
So fundamentally, media is really all about, the way I think about it, storytelling. And technology enables new forms of storytelling, and when what I call Media 2.0 is really when the way that technology is transforming storytelling and giving storytellers a new opportunity, new ways to engage, taking away the established rules of the game so that creators can create like never before and reach people 24/7 all around the world. So I consider media to be storytelling, which could be entertainment, it can be marketing, educational, all forms of communication are really storytelling. So I think of media in a very broad sense.
Okay, so let's go down another layer beneath media. You have a focus on two particular parts. One is content, which is, I won't even say it's a theme, it is really the essence of this book. The other is engagement. Right? So the means and then the end, right, of digital media.
Look, we live in a multi-platform world. And that means that you have your traditional platforms like, of course, the television set, your radio, all that sort of. But we're very much mobile first now. And then you have new platforms like immersive platforms, virtual reality, augmented reality. And then there's, let's not forget, the old-fashioned live platform too, of live engagement like this or live events. So I think for creators, what's so fascinating about Media 2.0 is the fact that they have all these different ways to reach an audience, but depending on what that platform is, you need to cater your, or really focus your storytelling for that particular platform. So what works on a mobile device is not going to be the same kind of story that works on a larger screen or in a live situation. And so if a content creator simply tries to take and re-chunk some of what they've already created and just divide it up over all the various platforms, that won't be successful.
Right.
It's, as a creator, you need to look at the audience and how they're engaging. That's what I mean by engagement, based on the kind of platform they're using.
Yeah, it's a personalization, right? It's
Very
a
much.
bespoke approach to content distribution and engagement.
Absolutely.
What about the lens that you've seen, Peter? And you went through your background, but when you speak about the various content platforms, which are now all digital, but you go through an in-theater experience with your time with the studios, right?
Yeah.
Then you move to streaming music and on. So what is your personal evolution that you've seen in terms of each engagement pattern and how it's evolved?
Well, ultimately at a high level, the engagement pattern is that the consumer is going to have a more personalized experience all along this continuum that we've seen. So where you had scattershot approaches to marketing, as an example, where you just have the hammer where you throw it out there and hope that it sticks in the more traditional platforms like television, now through the evolution of getting to know you more, understanding your personal habits, you're going to have a much more personalized experience. So I think at a meta level, the evolution is that we're getting more granular in terms of how we can reach you. And we're also, one of the great stories here is that we have so many channels in traditional viewing. I'm going to take the viewing sense. So many channels of traditional. And you would think that that reaches everybody, but far from the case. When you look at this international crowd that's out there, all of us have very different interests. And so you have certain things that you're very passionate about, and you're probably underserved in the marketplace of traditional content in terms of being able to engage with that content that speaks directly to you. In this brave new world, now anybody can really be a media company, essentially. And so you've seen, that's why you've seen all of these various OTT over-the-top video players that have sprung up, and they cater to a particular focused, like hyper-focused media companies that are serving underserved audiences, so-called niche. A lot of people call it niche audiences. But
it's really just demographic-based, right?
It's demographic-based, but it's interest-based.
By interest, yes.
Interest-based. And so, although these are niches, on a global scale, if you add up these individual niches, you can have mega audiences and create mega media companies. And that's why you have companies like Tastemade that are focused on the foodies and travel. Whistle Sports that is focused on millennial sports. 88 Rising is a company that my venture fund just recently invested in, and it's a Asian pop culture for a millennial focused audience, very mobile first, but it's a global audience for Asian pop culture, whether it's K-pop, whether it's, because it's, now you're able to reach anybody around the world, and they have a massive audience, even though you may think that it would be relatively small.
Right.
And you won't find that content on traditional platforms.
Okay. I want to be clear about whom we have here. Peter comes from the entertainment sector, so if you haven't been to C-Space yet at CES 2018, where we're talking about advertising and entertainment and content and marketing, you're getting an insider's view from Hollywood right now. So I want to go down that path a little bit, Peter, with your specific experience. And one of the first quotes that jumps out to me from the book is, it's a little long, so I'll just bear with me.
Okay.
This is "Welcome to content's new golden age. Digital media has shattered those constraints, unleashing a torrent of unprecedented creativity. Content creators have more ways than ever before to express themselves," and you were touching on that before. Here's the key sentence, I think. "Those ways are truly unlimited because mass storytelling has been democratized." We're all storytellers to some degree, right? Everybody who is here and can tweet at a moment's notice is a storyteller in a way.
Absolutely. So what I think is so exciting is that, look, because I came maybe from the studio side, I'm very much, although my background's heavily tech too, I very much believe that fundamentally it's the content that drives the overall level of engagement. That technology is the various technologies are new ways to reach you with the storytelling. But what's so exciting is not only the fact that storytellers can inject themselves with a tweet or with whatever that they want to, and potentially reach an audience all around the world. What's so exciting is that gone are the rules of the game in the traditional side. So previously, we were limited in the media business. I'll call it, premium content, what high-end, expensive sort of storytelling,
Right.
you were limited to 22-minute sitcoms or 44-minute dramas. You had certain basic rules of the game. There were more constraints. You know, I'm simplifying a little bit, but there were those more cookie cutters that content creators and storytellers needed to fit in. Gone. Those rules are gone now because of all these incredible platforms. So while you have some traditional storytelling, now you have you can have 10-minute segments, 10-minute features that are episodic. They're on new platforms like Facebook Watch or or Snap on Snapchat. Now you have more freedom in terms of even in the more premium content of what you do with your characters. You know, the rules of the game of having your characters just continue on are gone, and that's why, like in Game of Thrones, when you least expect it, Gon is one of your favorite.
Yeah.
One of your favorite stars.
No
right?
specific spoiler alerts here, but yes.
Oh, yeah. And then Fargo, one of my favorites because I'm a Minnesota boy. You know, each season is a different season, completely different story, completely different cast.
Right.
That was unheard of in the more traditional side. So, and then one more thing I think is really interesting and kind of a trend that you'll see in 2018, where there's going to be more specific ability to test the kind of content and storytelling that resonates with an audience and characters that resonate with an audience by first injecting those into more of a smaller segment, let's say on a mobile first side, seeing where the audience gravitates to it because you're collecting data, there's this feedback loop, and then investing more money to extend the story onto other platforms and so on. And I'll give you an example of a company that I think is really interesting in that regard.
Okay.
So Jason Blum, I don't know how many people are out here are horror fans, thriller fans, but Blumhouse Productions they're killing it in the media business. In their storytelling for a theatrical audience. They're killing it. But Jason Blum is also an investor in a new media company that's called Crypt TV, which is a horror-based segment that's for a millennial audience that's mobile first. What Crypt TV is able to do is they spend very efficiently, they can test different characters on Crypt TV, various small storylines. It's exactly what we were talking about. Then you can see what resonates, extend that more, and then reach other platforms. Ultimately, you can bet. That means that it's going to be kind of a chemistry lab to bring it into the theatrical motion picture world too. So there are, if you're in the content storytelling creation business, rather than having to just throw millions of dollars based on your subjective judgment, now there's going to be an ability to be able to more efficiently test what works, be much more cost effective, but that doesn't mean you're taking away the soul away from storytelling. So I think those are some interesting themes that we'll be seeing in 2018.
Yeah, okay, so you said it doesn't mean you're taking the soul away from storytelling.
Yeah.
And I think your point backs this up early in the book where you say authenticity, italicized, authenticity is the key word here. And I don't want us to lose the fact that content isn't like cowbell. We can't say, give me more content, just give me more cowbell. It's got to be something, just give me more of it. It has to be quality. There has to be a quality, whether it's tailoring it specifically to the audience you want or the test demos without a net you were talking about on Crypt TV.
Yeah.
You can't lose sight that the content has to be good and has to be authentic.
Look, content essentially defines itself as being good when it finds an audience. You may and I may not think it's good, and then we'll be surprised that some of this content finds a mass audience.
Right, but we're just not the audience then,
we're
right?
we're not the audience, but it's good for that particular audience. So
Sure.
I'll give you another example of a really cool company, one of my favorites. It's called Jukin Media. Jukin's based out of LA. They are a privately held company. They've been profitable from day one as a storytelling company. They have a mass global audience, and what they're known for is fail videos. So that's what they were started off. But so like the clips you see on Tosh.0, those are Jukin Media videos.
Sure.
But is it good content when somebody is skateboarding and they fall and they land someplace that's painful?
If I like it, it's good. If you don't, it's
right.
not.
So
right?
it's really the kind of, it's about if it's compelling in some kind of fashion, it's going to find an audience. And so there's a lot of experimentation that's going on.
Right.
That's exciting.
But to burrow in that for a moment, Peter, if it's, I hate to pick on a skateboarder who fails, but if it's a really good face plant or someone who tries a trick and seems to have it coming, that's good content. But then if it's just someone tripping and slipping off a skateboard, that's not good content. So I hate to break it down into fail videos, but there's even a dividing line there. There has to be an appeal to it, no matter what the segment is, no matter how small the audience is. There's got to be something to it. You can't just throw videos up there and say we've got content, but you can't expect them to hit.
Well, look,
the production process needs something.
Yeah, and even in the if you're talking about premium, expensively produced, high-end storytelling, there's so much great content out there. And another theme that we're going to be seeing more and more in 2018 and beyond, and there's going to be a lot more competition among the Netflixes, Amazons, Hulus of the world, is really making sense of it all for you, because there's great content out there, but if you don't know it exists, then you're going to miss it.
Discoverability.
And so there's an obligation on the service provider, on the creators, on those associated with, to really get the word out through their social channels and all kinds of ways. But personalization, breaking through, cutting through all the noise, that's a tremendous problem that the content creators and consumers have to be able to make sense of it all.
Okay. Quick time check in about 12 or 15 minutes. Peter's going to be signing books at Gary's Book Club right behind the stage. You can stop by, chat with Peter, and talk about this fascinating book, because in half an hour doesn't do it justice, I'll admit. To the point that you were talking about potential winners and losers, where are we going, Peter? I mean, peer forward 5, 10, 15 years. Which of today's winners will endure especially well? And we bring up big companies, and you talk about case studies in here, whether it's AT&T or Netflix or Spotify or Pandora. You have a bit of a look ahead as to not necessarily the company, but the model or what they're doing that's going to endure well.
Well, certainly, look, when you're talking about 5, 10 years out, I mean, that's incredibly far for what's going on.
Maybe we better stick with 3.
Well,
yeah.
But no matter what we choose, right? Things are moving so fast. It's at a very meta level. There will be giants that exist then that we can't even think about today. So that's a meta sort of theme. I mean, look, YouTube started in what, 2005? I think it was 2005,
2004. Yes.
And I remember back in the 90s when we thought search was all done. Search with Jeeves and Ask Jeeves and all that. And then all of a sudden, this little company, Google, came from nowhere. That was when people thought it was fully baked. So in the media business, yes, we have Netflix and Amazon. And by the way, I think Amazon is a fascinating company. It's, in my book, I call it the #1 most fearless digital media company on the planet. And I'll talk about that a little bit. But subscription streaming, on-demand streaming, that being able to find what you want at any time with deep personalization, and so it's going to be a lot of it will be more naturally coming to you, understanding your taste. That certainly won't go away, I don't think. Immersive experiences that are still relatively early but already amazing. So I'm talking about like VR and AR, but immersive areas within your home. Look, who knows? But storytelling will always continue. The premium, great storytellers, I call it a new golden age for storytellers. That won't go away anytime soon, because now you can engage in new ways.
And barriers to entry are so much lower.
Well, barriers to entry are lower, but even a company like Netflix, and I write about this in my book, I'm quite bearish actually on Netflix. I'm one of the rare bears, and a little bit bearish on Spotify too. Love both services. I pay for them both. I think they're great, but they're pure play services where all they can do, at least today, is really make money from subscriptions alone. That's essentially it. They're increasingly, I'll take Netflix, coming into competition with everybody who's coming out to get them. So Amazon, as an example, there's a full, beautiful good user experience, great content there too, And if you buy Amazon Prime, you get it for free. You know, you get it for free. And so for Amazon, they don't need to make money from the service itself. They just want, their whole raison d'etre is to make money from being an Amazon Prime subscriber. So if they lose money from the service itself, that's okay.
Right.
And that's a fundamental difference from a Netflix or a Spotify. Apple's another company like that. Apple from day one has used content as marketing, kind of a Trojan horse, to bring us into the Apple world so that we buy their hardware.
Let's get you in the ecosystem,
yeah,
right?
let's get you in the ecosystem, get the high margin products, the high margin product. So if they lose money from their services, then, you know, they don't want to, but ultimately it's about the overall ecosystem, and that's tremendous freedom and flexibility that pure play services don't have. And so I think long term, Netflix next year is committing to $7 to $8 billion for all of its just content.
Right.
$7 to $8 billion. That number was $6 billion this past year, and it keeps going higher and higher. How long is that sustainable when you have this increasing competition against Netflix? So although I think probably 90% of the people out there, I would imagine, think that Netflix will go on and on and on.
Yeah.
I hope it does. I love it, but I'm a little bearish.
Yeah. Well, after hearing Reed Hastings' keynote CES 2 or 3 years ago, I understand the appeal, right? There's a real charisma there, and when you hear his passion and vision, you see it.
But by the way, on that note, Reed Hastings came out very openly in one of his conference calls saying, yeah, we're going to continue to lose. We're going to continue to lose money. You know, we're going to continue to take on debt for a number of years so that we can fund our content, because they're playing the long game. So the question is whether the long game will be there for them as everybody else on the planet is coming after them.
All right, I think we just made a date for another Gary's Book Club in 10 years. So I pay to see where we
I'm
are.
in.
You touched on VR and AR, which you call the great unknown, at least from a hardware and experiential point of view. One way you put it is interesting, in that, to quote you again, this is so much more than seeing, talking about VR, AR. VR, in fact, is not really a visual medium at all. It is an experiential one, and that's not just marketing hype.
Yeah.
Experiential.
Yeah, VR is very much a physiological experience in your body. And so when you are, it's all about place. You know, you're in a place and your body feels that you're in that place. And so when you are, let's say you're doing Call of Duty in a VR experience, now your body physiologically feels like it is being threatened in a battle kind of experience. And there's actually there are real concerns by a number of experts about post-traumatic stress disorder that comes from those kinds of experiences. But it's the great unknown where we don't know what that will be like, because it's just mass experimentation now. Or a horror, like I don't know how many people have tried a horror experience in VR, but it is different. Your body physiologically reacts to, I remember I had one where it's VR, so it's all surrounding you, and I'm turning around on my seat, and I see something that leaps over me, and so my body jumped out of its seat, and I did a little shriek. So it's real, and these are, but then on the positive side, there's some amazing things that it's still content, but think about this. There are children, burn victims, who are being treated in a virtual reality experience in hospitals that, like a snow environment. It's a snow environment, and it has the same kind of impact on their bodies as opiates do. I mean, think about that. That's pretty phenomenal.
The pain management capabilities of VR it's so far beyond just media and entertainment in so many ways.
Absolutely.
Give me a few sentences, since everybody seems to have a point of view, although no one knows what's accurate, about blockchain and the future of blockchain.
Yeah. Okay, so first of all, I would say in the media and entertainment ranks, the traditional ranks, a lot of executives know about cryptocurrencies, but don't think of blockchain for the media and entertainment space. It really hasn't entered the lexicon yet. This year it will. So Water Cooler Talk will begin to start talking about blockchain, and the two big promises for blockchain in media and entertainment and storytelling. On the offensive side, for a creator, now blockchain enables direct secure distribution to your audience. Takes out the middleman, and that means takes out the Netflixes of the world, the service providers, the YouTubes, and so that's the big promise of blockchain for a creator, where now there's theoretically no sharing needed of any way you monetize your content. You don't have to pay a middleman anymore. It's direct. Now on the defensive side, there's also, blockchain has theoretically the ability to eradicate piracy. And so that's a pretty bold statement when you think about how everything can be hacked in the world. But at least theoretically, that is the beauty of blockchain, where now the kind of mass piracy that we've seen of Game of Thrones and other these great stories, which means tremendous economic loss to the creators themselves.
Right.
And I don't believe in, I think that creators should be paid for their creations. That blockchain has the ability to have the secure distribution so that pirates cannot hack into it. And then that's about as deep as, on the technology side.
No, I will pat you on the back, Peter. That is one of the more rational and tangible explanations I've heard on the practicality of blockchain. Looking forward, time for just about 2 more questions.
Yeah.
How are we going to define a media company going forward?
It's a great question.
When you were in Hollywood, there's a pretty clear definition of what a media company is. Now, not only with the acquisitions and growth of the largest companies, there's blurring of what media is to begin with. So,
yeah,
what's
no,
your definition?
it's a great question, and I write about this a lot in my book, which is traditional media companies are, of course, media companies, but so are Facebook. So's Google, of course, YouTube. So's Snapchat, and on and on and on. Instagram, and it continues. So tech Amazon, Apple, of course, but a much broader swath than that. And those are US-based companies. We're here at CES. The US, we have a tendency to be US-centric, but what we're seeing in the US, of course, is going on all over the place. And then so you have media and technology that is truly, for lack of a better word, converging. And the line between them is certainly loosened up. And then let's not forget the marketing companies themselves are media companies, so that have a very overt media piece to them on occasion. Red Bull is probably one of the greatest examples of that, where Red Bull is, if you look at Red Bull's website, you don't see an energy drink anywhere. What you see is a lifestyle.
Oh, it's sponsoring extreme athletes,
a lifestyle
right?
So I think of Red Bull as being a lifestyle media company that engages with you in multiple platforms. One platform is their energy drink, but they have their full-on media house that is not just a marketing arm. It's a separate P&L where they service others. So it's a great question. I would say that any company is a media company because they're all storytellers.
Final question, Peter. If we can keep it to a minute, great, because this is a major theme, I think, throughout the last part of the book. But you said your takeaway here is optimism. You're hopeful, you're excited, and your point is, one point on the optimism is, if you're considering this space, get in the game and experiment like crazy.
Absolutely. So, you took the words out of my mouth, but what you frequently see in any kind of technology revolution, and there's been a fundamental transformation of media and entertainment, is the deer in headlights mentality, which is very much understandable because the DNA of those in the traditional spaces just aren't deep in technology.
Right.
But you got to get in there, you got to hire the right minds, which is a different DNA, and that's just, let's face it, it's going to be a younger group that grew up with digital natives. They're going to be the people who are going to help affect change in your organization. And there are a lot of hungry companies that are startups or early stage who would love to work with you. So bring them into the house, experiment with them, take them for all they're worth, because they'll love it and you'll love it too. So yes, you got to be in the game, you got to invest in it. If you just sit back and let others take control, then you're done.
Not only interesting, but a fun conversation. Peter Ciotti, thank you so much for your time.
Tyler,
Peter's going to be
here.
right behind us in Gary's book club. The book, Media 2.0, 2018. Thanks for spending time with us this afternoon. Thank you for being here at CES 2018.
Thanks.